Hi there, so my name's Anita, and I'm giving a talk on befriending your inner critic, a mindfulness session. So our research environment demands high standards of us, whether we're writing software as part of our research, or whether we're a research software engineer writing software for the projects we're involved with. And the research environment often means that our work is being critiqued by others. So could we do something different with the software? Could it do this rather than this? Could we make the interface better for other people to use? So there's critique from others, but also from ourselves often. We're critiquing our work before it reaches the stage where other people will see it to defend ourselves, to defend our work. So our inner critic develops to help us meet these high standards. And the outer critique, the voice of others, can often encourage our inner critic to show itself. So examples of this could be our supervisor or manager having very strong views and opinions of how things should be done. And so we try and navigate round those views. We might be trying to align ourselves with the way that the group does things. We might have different ideas of how to do things, but we're worried about how that might create conflict, negatively impact us getting our next role or promotion, especially if you, like me, you're on short-term contracts. So our inner critic tries to help us navigate this research environment, what's going to work for us, what isn't, protect us, keep us safe. The flavour of our inner critic often emerges from the way we navigated our childhoods and then our adult lives, and we all have different reasons for this. So one of mine as a person of colour can be to ensure that I fit in, I don't stand out too much. So my inner critic picks up on any time I'm not fitting in and tells me to do better, do things differently. And this is often how an inner critic shows up. We do something, we're uncomfortable, we don't like the outcome, and then the inner critic says, oh, you should have done it like this, you didn't get it right. Or next time we're in this position, put this protocol in place, that'll prevent this unwanted outcome. Can be quite harsh. "Ooh, that wasn't quite right, was it? You could have done that better." And it can also start comparing us with others. Oh, that person's got it spot on. I should be more like them. Yeah. So it's less looking for development opportunities and more looking for chances to berate us. And all this can produce quite negative thinking. It can leave us feeling down in the dumps, bad-tempered, not quite good enough, maybe even nowhere near good enough. And then we start looking at our lives through this lens of I'm not good enough. We pick up on any evidence that fits with that and we disregard anything that doesn't. So quite a negative mindset can develop really. So why do we get into these unhelpful thinking patterns? So neuropsychologists describe the mind as having a negativity bias. It's inbuilt in our neural wiring. So in many ways, it's not our fault we develop these negative mindsets. It's an evolutionary development to keep us safe, to keep us alive. So in an era when we were living in wilder environments, it was really important to be alert to natural threats. The crackle of fire, the padding of a wolf's foot as it breaks a twig. And if we have a narrow escape, or we get into a situation that's a bit too dangerous, it's really important to be able to remember clearly how that happened, what were the warning signs, and not to put ourselves in that situation again. So all this is really initiated by the reptilian parts of our mind, the amygdala. You might have heard of that. That might be your research area. You probably know more than me. So if we're feeling threatened in the wild woods of research software with all those wolves about, maybe that's not your workplace, the same thinking patterns will occur, telling us how not to get into that situation again and how to do better. So how can mindfulness help us with this? Well, one of the mantras of mindfulness is thoughts are not facts. Which sometimes for scientists, research scientists, they find a little difficult. So I'm maybe not talking about scientific facts that you develop in your research or work from. Although even we know physical models have their limits, don't they? The quantum model, the classical model in physics. Um, but here I'm more talking about thoughts like, I'm not good enough, they're much better than me. Yeah, as a gross statement, they're probably quite weak. Yeah. So your inner critic is a series of thoughts. So maybe they are not true, just maybe. And maybe we can hold that as a hypothesis in our mind. Yeah, maybe not all our thoughts about ourselves or indeed other people are true. So with practice, we can learn on the scientific, we can lean and rely on the scientific fact of neuroplasticity. So practicing mindfulness, we can change our wiring and support more positive states of mind. So the first stage of mindfulness is to understand what our inner critic looks like. For a long time, for me, it was there, but it was under the hood, if you like. There was this rhetoric running of how to do things better, how to be different. But I didn't really notice it. I started to become more aware of it actually after reading a book on self-compassion. And awareness is everything. The first step of noticing what it looks like and noticing when it appears is everything. So we can't think of ourselves out of this. Yeah, it's a protective mechanism, and we don't actually want to go into battle with it. Otherwise, you almost end up with two inner critics battling it out. But we do want to be able to create a bit of space, a distance from it, so we're not looking through their lens. And I find that now, I mean, when I go on holiday, actually, not to talk about work, but holidays, my inner critic arises because it wants me to pack the right stuff, set off to miss the traffic. Have we booked good accommodation? Should I have booked the other one? You know, all this turns up when I'm writing software as well. Should I use MATLAB? Maybe I should have used R, you know. And the time has passed. So now I'm much better at seeing those thoughts pattern and go, oh, yes, that's the inner critic. It wants me to be really good and reach high standards. And just noticing gives me that space. And it is a relief. It definitely is a relief. So mindfulness, as I'm sure you know, is about coming into the present moment, having awareness of the present moment. And the best way to find that, I find, is through the body. So when I notice my inner critic arise, I come to the body in very much the same way as we've done in an exercise. So, and you can notice how the inner critic feels in the body, the tightening of the jaw, maybe the shoulders have come up a bit, the chin's jutted a bit, tightness around the stomach. I know them very well now. So it's always a turning towards the inner critic. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like in the body? So we can then gradually build up confidence that almost that process in itself is enough. Once we raise our awareness of how it appears, that has given us the space. In that way, we have started to make space to befriend our inner critic. And I'll record some mindfulness exercises that go through that um, as an experience, to lead you through that as an experience, so you can get a feel for that too. I hope that's been of help.